And we are live. My name's JP Berg, and this is episode 38 of the Philosopher, the Stoic, and the Teddy Bear. I'm joined with my co-host Peyman Askari. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing good, man. It's good to be here with you.
Absolutely. So tonight we're going to be discussing Bill C9 and the war in Iran. So with that said, Peyman, I'll throw it right over to you. Evidently, they shut down the debate on Bill C9.
Yeah, they did, but I'd rather actually not start with Bill C9. I wanted to start with the testimony by this gentleman in the Heritage Committee in Parliament today. I got the impression that he was there to blow the lid off of the CBC, this entire fraudulent operation that was started with, I guess, as Peter McIsaac was saying, Gerald Butts. Like, they came in and we came, we saw, we hijacked.
Mm-hmm.
But ironically, the committee got hijacked by the liberals. One guy started going off about how the CBC is anti-Semitic. About 2/3 of them were talking about how there was discrimination. There wasn't enough diversity. They didn't. They were using all these leftist buzzwords. So I think the conservatives were hoping to get a win and take that tool away from the liberals, but they got infiltrated.
Very possibly. We all anyone who watches this show knows how I feel about the conservatives. I don't have any faith in our system, but I was unaware of this particular incident.
Didn't you hear this guy? He was going around talking about how everybody tune in. Is he some East Indian guy? What was his name? You keep talking. I'll find his name.
Yeah, I was just going to say, but I mean, the CBC is state-funded media. They passed a law, I believe, back in 2019, where they don't even have to legally tell the truth to you anymore. Everyone, even normie conservatives, and they realize this CBC is just, you can't trust it at all anymore. It's kind of an insult at this point.
Yeah, but you and I know that. His name is Travis Danraj, by the way. And they're interviewing his lawyer. She's a complete bimbo. They're interviewing his co-host, this East Indian woman, and they ask her about, what's going on, what's wrong with CBC. Give us the goods, spill the beans. And she's like, they were really mean. The first day a woman was having labor pains and they didn't take her to the hospital. I'm like, this is not national news. Like, lady, millions of people got forced into taking a vaccine. And then she's like, they called me the brown bimbo. And I'm like, well, I wouldn't have called you brown, but you're definitely a bimbo. I mean, you're not a journalist.
Yeah, it's just the same old stuff we're all used to. This outrage, this victim culture. If they're using the buzzwords, you could shoot it down right there. Like, this is like the weaponization of terminology. Like, once you hear diversity, that literally translates to absence of white people. That's what they mean when they say that. And every time someone uses that with me, I ask them to define it, and they'll try to, and then I'll point out that aspect of it. It gets them every time, because that's exactly how it's utilized.
I guess I can tie it back to Bill C9. I've had a horrible day today. I was out in the yard working, and I was just getting more and more pissed off all day listening to this goddamn testimony. They are children. They can't survive in the world, and they're talking about how journalism they can't find funding. The government's got to step in and do funding. And they specifically pointed to Bill C11, C18. They said the Online Streaming Act and the Online News Act, they were great things, but the government's got to do more. Like, that's what I mean when I say the liberals hijacked it, because I have to believe they hijacked it. If that is the majority of the electorate in Canada, we are screwed.
I mean, we're famous for that. The government has to do more. That should be like the official logo of Canada, the Canadian electorate. We look to the government to solve every problem we have, and the news and the funding of all this is another aspect of it. I mean, it doesn't surprise me at all.
Yeah, they could change the motto to peace, order, and more governance.
Yeah, and people would cheer that on. Just totally, utterly oblivious to what's occurring. That's Canada right now. You look at this C9 thing. I've been just spamming about it. I don't know what I'm so concerned about this. I'm making all these posts, and half of the comments are from liberals. Like, it's just for hate speech. It's like, don't you wonder, what are you, hateful? It's like, oh my God, they don't understand. Like, the core criticisms of this. It's like, well, what is hate? You know what I mean? They don't understand how it's subjective and how it could be weaponized. Even if you tell them, like, look, would you like Pierre Poilievre to have the same power over speech? Of course not. You know what I mean? Like, but they still don't get it. It's just they've been conditioned.
I got bad news for you, JP. I think you might be talking to people in India. I don't think Canadians. I've never really had that conversation. It's either they don't care, or they're the 1%, like Rachel Gilmore's.
And that's it, man. Most of the people that are actually on here commenting on posts are bots or paid people. I mean, it's at this point, even if they're not, I think of them the same. They're like NPCs. They just don't get it. And there's so many people on the right too. Not that like I got it figured out. I mean, it's never been more complex. In fact, I've never felt more uncertain of my interpretations. But it's just like some people have, they just don't have the first clue. It's scary.
The right's got its own problems with the fracturing. Your original question was about Bill C9, and I keep dodging the question because I just don't have faith in Canadians. Like, we have this land appropriation going on in BC. We just got hit with a 1-2 punch, the Cowichan and the Musqueam. Mm-hmm. I don't think anybody, my parents don't know about it yet. I haven't told them because they never listen to me. I don't think people, the level of apathy is beyond belief.
And it's a good time to speak to the efficacy of the Canadian media. The media should be like one of the biggest stories. That should be everywhere. Same with the censorship aspirations of the government. They work for the government. They work to disinform or misinform. But especially in British Columbia, like that should be dominating the news cycle. Like this is like expropriation of people's private property. In BC, you're seeing it all. You're seeing like the crazy violent protests on university campuses. You're seeing this land, these land issues. You're seeing everything is kind of culminating in BC. And I don't know, it's not just relative to the NDP government. This is like, that's like a good example of what's going to be right across the country.
This Heritage Committee testimony today, one guy in support of his argument that we need more government intervention. It's just the stones on these people. The government has hijacked media. There's no objectivity. Media is failing, and he's demanding more government. And the reason he uses for that is OpenAI. He goes, OpenAI, who failed to share information on the Tumbler Ridge shooting. Like, I wanted to just catch a flight over to Ottawa and strangle the guy.
Yeah, it's frustrating, man. They're going to have a lot of rationales to implement the agenda they want to. These Trojan horses, like, oh, well, we want to keep kids off the internet. That'll be the next one. So that'll be kind of like we need a digital ID. We need IDs to get on the internet because it's dangerous. Think of the children. Same with the censorship things. It's just the fact that people are falling for it. And that people, I think the big reason the people on the so-called left in Canada are falling for it is because the right are against it. They're just so in that division mode and that tribalism that like they haven't even considered like, is this good legislation? Do I want this legislation? They just know that the right support it, so they're for it. Or the right are against it, so they support it just by default.
Yeah, it's I remember a story when I was a kid. I read a story. These I don't know, green-headed people, they got attacked by the blue-headed farmers, and the blue-headed farmers killed all their women. So they grouped together, and the greens attacked the blues, and they started killing the blues. And then in the middle of the fight, the blue general killed the green general, and they just all put their arms down and went back to the farms. Like it's just pure hatred, like for no reason.
Yeah, and that hate is preventing people from seeing the core issues. It's like I've said many times, like we're so busy looking to the left and the right, and we're so busy defending our leader that we're not scrutinizing our leader. And we're not speaking of the relevant issues. Like we're living in a country right now where they're expropriating private property through these globalist UNDRIP policies. They're kind of pushing that divide against Indigenous Canadians and regular property owning Canadians. At the same time, we're seeing this crazy, like Orwellian level censorship legislation. This shit is straight out of Brussels and Davos. It's the same things we've seen implemented in the UK, and it's going to be weaponized in the same capacity too, to shut down political opposition. Any deviation from their set orthodoxy, their rigid orthodoxy, any deviation can be construed as hate speech. That's how ambiguous this legislation is.
Yeah. I mean, if you want to talk about the legislation, like the wording is specifically ambiguous, but to the average Canadian who's never run afoul of the law, what do they care, right? Like the average Canadian thinks, well, I'm never going to break the law. It's like the gun rights thing. So with a gun, they changed the law. So there's only 6 bullets allowed in this gun. Next year it's 5, and you forget to take a bullet out, and they come after you because they don't like your podcast and like, oh, illegal firearm. But the majority of people think, well, I'm never going to have a gun, and if I do, I'll never have an illegal gun.
And that's if they even think that far into it, most people are just oblivious of this. I know really smart Canadians that they just don't know about this. And when I tell them about it, it seems so out of the ordinary that they think I'm exaggerating. They don't even it's seemingly believe me. But this is like I think in the legislation in C9, it's like when people detest, they use the term detest. So I mean that's just a synonym for hatred. It still doesn't clarify anything. I mean, everyone knows like the semantical malleable nature of this. Like it's just crazy. Everyone knows hate is subjective. It's an emotional interpretation that is a subjective one. And what I hate, you could love. And in a free country, we should even be able to hate. That's another argument. Like we pay taxes in a free country where we have civil liberties. I'm a tax-paying citizen. I should be able to hate any group I want to hate. That's the truth too. And you don't hear that argument made, but it's a relevant one.
It's the society has gotten away from us. Like the majority of the people, they don't follow the law. They don't understand common law. They don't understand God's law. They don't believe in the family unit anymore. The only thing that these people believe in is the Liberal Party or the Conservative Party, and they have to rally behind them and have faith in the party, and the party will take care of everything.
And it's the whole ideology associated with the party, and you see it through the Western democracies. It's this leftist ideology. It's in my eyes, it's more of a psyop than this natural thing the left have. But it's this neoliberal ethos. Like they believe in moral relativism. There is no good and evil. So they believe gender is an abstract, and it can be infinite in the way it's interpreted, and we should enshrine these things in our law. They believe that white people are irredeemable. They have that whole colonizer critical theory framing where there's the oppressor and the oppressed, and white people are just irredeemable in that regard. And it's all of it. It's all or none. You either believe that or you don't. And the minute you try to deviate from it, this is how cult-like it is, then you're admonished straight away. What are you, far right? It's like, well, no, I don't think men should be in women's bathrooms. Well, that's not a man. Next thing you know, you're feeling the weight of these admonishments, right? And that does a lot to prevent people from speaking out against it.
Do we have anything as retarded as that on the right? I know in Iran we have it where, Islamic law says that a woman is worth half of a man, so you need 2 female witnesses. You stone women. Some Messiah is coming back, so we have to build like a special road so that when he comes in his automobile. Like they're retarded. Do we have anything like that on the right in the West? Is Christian Zionism maybe?
There's definitely a lot of weird aspects of the fringe right, but if the right had the power for the last 15 years, we might see something different, right? We need like a semblance of balance between the two, and that's how they're supposed to function. Ideally, is one kind of keeps the other honest. But in Canada, I mean, at this point, the CPC is not taking any hard stances in opposition to the liberal agenda. They're just not. They put up like a bit of performative opposition, but I don't see any real opposition. Pierre Poilievre should be non-fucking stop. Speaking out against the censorship, speaking out against the weaponized mass migration, speaking out against the Malthusian degrowth and deindustrialization policies that have just decimated our economy. But we don't get none of that, right? We get this kind of illusion of opposition.
You know, earlier on, I said that this was like an attempt by the Conservative Party to one up the Liberals. And, you know, you've made your position on the Conservatives pretty clear. I've just given up on Canadians. Like, I don't think there is any, first of all, the Conservatives are useless. But as useless as they are, I think that's the only way Canada has to move forward. Like, the right is so divided right now. The Christians hate the Muslims, and I think they're being tricked into doing that. The Israelis think that everyone is out to kill them. I don't know who else is the anti-China crowd. They're singularly focused on, you know, stopping the Belt and Road Initiative. Then the nationalists and the libertarians are fighting amongst each other. This is not a winning strategy.
No, and I can't help but to think that that's part of the agenda. It's for all of this division. It's all being hyped up. It's like I say, we're in this like fucking slave dialectic, this right versus left thing, and we're so concerned with this right, you know, let's unify the right against the left, and then the right is divided to hell, like you said. You have your ethno-nationalists that are putting the emphasis on the cultural or racial ethnos of Canada. And then you have your libertarians who are more like, you know, pro-republic, like they want to see less government. There's nothing in common with them. And the libertarians are more of the populist-minded people too. And I mean, as crazy as it sounds, like when you were saying what's on the right that's comparable to that, like the people on the left are obsessed with their identity. Everything comes back to their individual identity. Like, if you're a homosexual, like you are a homosexual, that is your identity, as opposed to like, you know, that's your preference. The same thing, like I'm trans. They're very obsessed with their gender identity. But on the right, we have this obsession with political identity. I'm a libertarian. I'm a populist. I'm a nationalist. And you know what I mean? It's just, man, instead of looking at what little, you know, faction we're in and factionalizing further, we have to look at like, what can we all get behind? I don't even just mean the right, man, the right and the left. Like the left should fucking know goddamn well that you don't want the government to have the power to police language. The left, as we've known it in the West, would have been against this. You actually, when in my era, it was coming from the religious right. They were trying to censor media. They were trying to censor music. They were making these arguments. They were trying to censor like mixed martial arts. You had a lot of these aspirations from the right, and the left were very much against that, pro free speech. And then you've seen that dynamic shift entirely, right? It's just relative to who's in power.
People move around. I was watching the Duran today, and the guy, one of the questions from the audience, and he said, you know, the problem that we're having, the reason we're in Iran is because we don't have the anti-war left anymore. If we had the anti-war left, we would have seen similar protests to this Iran invasion as we saw to the Iraq invasion about 20 years ago. Well, those people that were on the left, the anti-war people, they've moved over to the right. That's the populist America First base that got behind Trump because he said he wasn't going to start a war. And now he started a war, and now they're pulling their support. So you got these people that they're just moving between these two sides, and they're looking desperately for a way to take back control.
Yeah, Trump, for me, when he did this, like when he initially bombed their nuclear sites there in July, like I took a hard black pill because I put a lot of faith in this. Like this is like a nationalist American populist movement that is trying to kind of defang globalism and take some power away from the banks and the deep state and bring it back to the people. Like, and some of his moves did that, especially some of his policies towards the EU, their national defense strategy. But then it's like, oh my God, I'm having total flashbacks to the Iraq War, weapons of mass destruction. And then if you say anything critical against the war, well, you're a liberal. Or you, what do you support the mullahs, or do you support radical Islam? It's like these false dichotomy arguments. And I just see the same stupid people that were given the same bad reasons for the last regime change war. I'm having a total flashback to that.
You sent me that link yesterday for the Tucker Carlson interview with Colonel McGregor, and he said that after in the 1900s, the government GDP was 3%. Government was 3% of GDP, and before the Civil War, it was 1%. And I've seen these graphs. Like, the size of government was tiny. Now in the U.S., he says it's 30. Canada be way higher. This is GDP, not just public sector employees. So, like, the level of interference in our lives, that's what bothers me. If this was like a Smedley Butler going around the world killing people, if they were doing it with private money, as bad as it sounds, that would almost not bother me as much. They're taking my taxpayer money and they're turning around, they're punching me in the face. They're telling me, like, you have to go through this checkpoint, you got to fill out this form, you can't send money like this, you got to write a contract. I'm like, fuck this.
Yeah, everything about what's happening right now is just it's not looking good. Like, for me, watching Trump do this and hearing all of the rhetoric and seeing all of the people desperate to maintain their narrative, it just, I don't know, man. It makes back this. Putin has said this numerous times. He said that the president of the United States of America is a show for the people. It's literally run by the deep state and the CIA. He said that multiple times during speeches to his own people, during interviews with Russian media. And when I seen Trump, like, this isn't any president that decided to do this. This is Trump. This is the president that ran on the antithesis of that, who didn't just critique war. He critiqued the Middle East wars and the regime changes and how detrimental that has been to the world. And then he flips and does this, and it's just like, yeah, we got to get behind him. And the sycophants will admonish you if you criticize this move. It's just phenomenal to me. It's just like, it reminds me of a Nietzsche quote, like, not very many people seek the truth. They merely seek comfort in illusions. And that's what people are looking for. They're looking for something that's going to, make their framing make sense. So they think they have a clue of what's going on.
I think this goes back to Butler, Pennsylvania. I always say he stopped criticizing the FBI the moment the bullet grazed his ear. And then all the neocons came on, Marco Rubio, that Susie Wiles lady, that's a swamp creature. And he just took a complete turn, and his policies changed. And another thing I've noticed, the first 3 months of every year, his administration is phenomenal. That's when we got Doge, USAID. The first 3 months of this year, as we have our own opinions on Maduro, but it was pretty kick-ass. Like, yeah, I came, I saw, I conquered. He got Greenland. You were saying he admonished Europe and NATO. And then the neocons come in. These fucking neocons, like, they you can't get rid of them.
Well, it was still part of, like, it still made sense a little bit, right? Like, they released the National Defense Strategy, and they talk about securing North America, securing the Western Hemisphere. So it made sense that they were going down into Latin America and South America and talking about that. They were talking about Greenland and Canada. That was still congruous with their strategy. This was out of nowhere. It's like, oh yeah, we're going to, right in the middle of negotiations, twice they've done this now. So, I mean, the effect that has on future diplomatic ambitions, like, who's going to trust them? I certainly wouldn't. If I was the leader of a country, I wouldn't, yeah, I'll go into negotiations with you guys, and when my guard is down, you'll launch an attack. Like, that's it. It doesn't look good in any way. Sorry, I got to add one more thing. Where you said Butler, Pennsylvania, right after that, Peyman, you had a massive donation from Miriam Adelson. And a lot of people said he was bought. There you go. They got into him somehow.
Yeah, I mean, that pay to play is another thing. Again, on the Duran, they went through like item by item the things that Trump has done that's absurd. So using the IAEA, abusing it to lie, to manufacture a reason to invade Iran. They did that in, I think, last year. Using the IAEA to target and assassinate scientists in Iran, going after the political leadership and assassinating them in Iran. They apparently assassinated peacekeepers in Qatar. They've done a whole bunch of these. Like some of them aren't coming to mind, but they've violated. It's not just international law. Like this is like the boy that cried wolf. Like if you violate customs and traditions and norms enough times, no one's going to listen to you. No one's going to work with you.
Yeah, 100%. And again, it's kind of adds insult to injury for all of the people that supported Trump is he's not supposed to be this guy. He's supposed to be the opposite of this guy. And we're watching him not just go back on that, he's being an extreme example. Like no one took it this far. Like Netanyahu and Israel has been yelling for this Iran war for 30 years. The same narratives too. Oh, well, they're enriching plutonium. They're close to having a nuke. They've been close for 30 years now. I don't believe any of these narratives that it in any way, shape, or form benefits America. And I know because I'm very immersed in this populist movement, what MAGA was, that an easy, I'm estimating here, but I'd say an easy 70% of the base are dead set against this war. So why do this? And it's just, again, this is speculative or conjecture, but it seems like Bibi Netanyahu has control over Trump. I don't see how anyone could make a different assumption if you're thinking about it and being honest with yourself.
Yeah, Colonel McGregor always says Israel owns most of the Senate and a lot of the Congress. But like you could think of Israel, don't think it as a nation. I think it's like a money laundering operation. All of these billionaires, and this goes back to the interview McGregor did with Carlson yesterday. He said you got these like billionaire class, the elites, the Christian Zionists. They are aligned with Israel. They lean towards it, and I think the money, like it's not even Israel. Like if you could take the name Israel and replace it with something else like technocrat. I don't know, DC elite. Those are the people that are funding these political parties, and without those funds, no candidate would ever get elected.
Yeah, it's an apparatus of the deep state in some way. I think it always was. I think that was since 48. I think that's what it was intended to function as. I think initially it was very mutually beneficial, but now it's like something's gone horribly wrong is how I interpret it. And there's a lot of moving pieces, and there was a power struggle for this administration right from the get-go. You've seen Elon Musk with all of his success with Doge. He was seemingly pushed away. He has a black eye and he gets an award and they kick him away from it. And then he goes and has a tantrum and says Trump's in the Epstein files. You have all of that come out. Like, man, it's there's so many moving pieces to this. It's really hard to get some stable ground to stand on. And at the same time, all of the sycophants are like, they don't want you to even question it. It's like, I'm just not that guy. I'm going to call things as I see them, and I'm fine with being wrong. In fact, I pray that I'm wrong. I pray that I'm wrong. And there's some 5D chess, and it's like the Promethean Action Group says, like, it's just a big war against the British Empire and the city of London, and they had to do Iran. Like, I don't know, man. It seems desperate to me now. It just seems like bullshit propaganda like the rest of it.
No, I agree with you. And if it turns out that I'm wrong, I'd be happy to say, holy crap, I was such a fool. I was an idiot. Now, imagine if Trump plays some like 5D chess and then jettisons Israel. Israel gets destroyed. Iran gets destroyed. And then there's relative peace in the Middle East. And then he comes out and he says, all right, we're not going to have any more foreign wars. We're going to heed, George Washington's advice. And by the way, we're taking away 98% of regulations, and everyone is happy. Like, I hope that will happen, but I don't think it will.
Yeah, it certainly doesn't seem like it. It seems just like that this is another captured administration. It seems like it's business as usual. And I don't get the impression that Trump was like, controlled opposition the whole time. I think Trump had an agenda, and I think he really tried to accomplish it. But in the end, this is a well-established deep state. The city of London, the Israel aspect, like these are powerful players, and I think they wield far more influence than is known. And that's just what it seems like. I mean, again, this is conjecture. I'm speculating.
The phrasing I've started using now is you have the billionaire class and the trillionaire class. So the trillionaires would be like the central banks. They're sitting back making money off of printing money out of thin air. You pay the vig, and then the billionaire class would be like the George Soros and the Bill Gates. And as long as they don't criticize that underlying fiat currency system, they have free reign to do whatever they want. And then you got the NGOs and everything, and you got the suckers like you and me at the bottom.
Yeah, and we can go deep on all of the conspiracy theories and say, it's the Zionists, it's the Jesuits, it's the Venetian banking dynasty, it's the city of London, it's the Chinese Communist Party.
The Spanish Inquisition.
Whatever it is, though, there's one thing that's undeniable is how they enslave humanity. And humanity is enslaved through the monetary system, through fiat currency and this debt-based usury thing that, like, there's no soundness to our currency. It's just it's printed. It's like if you're not so much a citizen of a nation as like you're an employee of a commerce district, and it's like our national our money is like it's almost like you're indebted to the company store. Like it's just not functioning anymore, and it's like I say, we can speculate as to who's in power, who's at the very top of this network. But one thing that's seemingly undeniable is that's the mechanism in which they enslave us.
I recommend everybody go watch my interview I did with Curtis Stone. I loved his framing when he said you are either a man or a person, and he was trying to say person is a legal fiction. Now this is the man on the land sort of like lingo, and he said on one side you have the Bible, the other side you have Black's Law Dictionary, and that kind of made sense to me. I mean, you have God's law, or you have the law of these corrupt, crooked men, and we're being governed by the latter.
Yeah, well, it was a great episode, man. He's very well informed, but he was using the term securitization, like our children are kind of are commodities of the state, and that's how they print money with that, like having a projection of so many people coming, then they have more leverage to borrow more money. It's really dark when you think of it, and that's what I say. Once you desanctify humanity, you start to think of humanity mathematically. You can rationalize atrocities because it's just a game of numbers. You've detached the inherent value in a religious sense from man.
All right, let's pull on that thread. Treating people like numbers. What do you think Carney's end game is with this Musqueam agreement? Not just that. It's not just that he's doing it now, which is a really strange thing because people are already on edge. But he's doing it in Vancouver. That's his base. Like he could have done it in buttfuck middle of nowhere, some conservative riding.
So it all comes from like the UNDRIP globalist policies, like through the UN. You're seeing this being implemented in New Zealand and Australia too with their Aboriginal communities. I think it's a rationalization to cause dissent. It's a destabilization tactic. I think of it in a problem, reaction, solution framing. So they create this problem right now. Like we've seen, apparently there was a native band kicked a trailer court off of their property, and we're going to see something occur where it's like a large suburban area, and one of these native reservations like says we're going to evict you all. We want to develop this land, and then you're going to see like some of the most vehement division we've seen yet. You're going to see true violence, and that's when I think the government's going to want to come in a mediatory, like in a mediation capacity, and they're going to say, look, like you guys are going to kill each other. We have to kind of nationalize the lands. We're going to make sure that it's all fair, and that's just what I see. I see that with the balkanization of the Canadian electorate too. Like we have culturally incongruous immigrant groups here. Like it's wild. You go to Brampton and the Hindus are fighting the Sikhs in the streets of Brampton. Like, I mean, they had to know that there was some effects to these policies. And I just think that they have to be aware of that. And in some capacity, they're going to use that to implement the next phase of the agenda.
So to the audience, we're going to get to the questions at the end. If anybody knows why they're doing this, put it in there. And Tosca Houston, I see you there. You said yes. By the time I get to the end, I don't know what that yes is going to be about. So put some more context. This is like beyond 5D chess. Like I don't understand. Somebody must have sat down with Carney and they said, listen, let's give this land that's all of Vancouver, all it's like $1 trillion in assets because there's buildings there, like 20, 30, 40, 50 stories. Let's give it to the First Nations. And what? Like, let's like I just it's very risky to say like we'll cause this a shitstorm and then the people will come to ask for stability. Like you're stealing people's land. Like certainly that's going to wake Canadians up.
Well, this is like there's a concept in psychological warfare. It's called like anarcho tyranny. And like the government would stop enforcing the law. And then when people are desperate, they can make them accept anything. Because at the end of the day, if you're not safe and you don't feel there's stability in your society, there's nothing else that really matters. You'll agree to anything. It's a way they weaponize things against us. And this is the climate we're in. And I really think destabilization is part of their agenda. I don't know exactly how it's going to play out, but I sure as hell don't believe that central banker WEF member Mark Carney wants to give the crown lands of Canada back to the First Nations. That's just not the way that makes no sense to me.
What you're describing is almost like an internal refugee crisis. Like you have all of these Canadian citizens that are pushed off of their Vancouver land and the government has to relocate them to, I don't know, Saskatchewan or something. But like another thing that's absurd about this, they're pushing this 15-minute city thing. We got to get everyone into 15-minute cities. And then they go into Vancouver, which is like the ultimate 15-minute city. And then they give Vancouver away to the First Nations.
Yeah, it's wild, man. It really is hard to even process how they're getting away with this. Like, and Canadians are just it's like they're not just apathetic or complacent, like they're divided or they're just oblivious. It's just where does it go from here? For people like you and I who are watching this, who have been watching it for years, we're seeing how bad it's getting now. Like I would have thought Canadians would have woke up long ago. I really was optimistic, or we'll say better than that. I was naive. I'm thinking, well, Canadians are going to realize this is crazy. Like they're not going to tolerate this. But the reality is, it's like you say, they're getting their pumpkin lattes. They're going to hot yoga. As long as it's not affecting their day-to-day existence, they just don't give a fuck. It's crazy.
You know, we often say like we're in an echo chamber or a bubble, but I think it would be more accurate to say that we're basically like a Dungeons and Dragon kind of group of 3 or 4 people. I was watching that Heritage Committee thing today. These people who claim to be journalists are praising the Online Streaming Act. They're praising the Online News Act. They're vilifying Facebook and Google, and they're saying we need more government subsidies for local media to, you know, save our democracy. And I'm just like, if this is the electorate, I can see why they gave the land away to the First Nations.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. And the big thing, like journalism is a joke in Canada. There's some independent ones that are decent. All of the corporate press swill merchants, they're pushing narratives. They work for vying interests. It's crazy. The state-sponsored media like CBC, that's just an apparatus of our government. It's like Pravda. And like we used to have a core, there was integrity and impartiality associated with this profession. It was considered the fourth estate. You played a crucial role in condensing the complexity of politics and presenting a digestible summation to the electorate. That was your job, and it was very important, but you don't get that anymore. There's no integrity, even with some of these so-called independent journalists online. They're cheerleaders for their team. They're not being objective. They're just, it's a joke, man. And that's what Canadians got. So it's not to take it up, like to let them off the hook, because ultimately we're responsible. We get the government we deserve. We have the power to do that. But we're being misinformed. We're being played off against one another. There's just this entire synthetic ecosystem of information. And Canadians are not just oblivious. They're in many instances they're being directly misinformed.
It's a full-time job to educate oneself. Take everyone that's in the audience right now. Like I think all of those individuals are more informed than anyone that's on the payroll for the CBC. And these people aren't getting paid. That's why I'm getting so offended when these people go to Parliament and they're complaining about how they need more money from the government. Well, I'm looking at the people in the audience. They're not getting paid for being here, for educating themselves. You and I for sure are not getting paid.
Well, relative to that abdication of responsibility, or even like we'll go as far as to say a dereliction of duty of professional journalism and journalists, we've seen this market kind of start to arise. And there's a lot of like really vibrant independent voices in this space. Unfortunately, they're buried in the algorithm while all the bullshit culture war grifters are put to the top. But that's why I think we've seen this market emerge in this independent ecosystem is relative to that dereliction of duty.
Yeah, I mean, like the reason I got into this is because I had this insane ambition to save my country. And I was so naive at first. I was like, if I lead, the people will follow. Like they're just looking for somebody who has courage, and I'll speak the truth. And people don't want to hear the truth. That Nietzsche quote, I'm going to butcher and paraphrase it, but people want to hear what they think is the truth. They want to hear what they already believe. They want to like a confirmation of their worldview.
Yeah, 100%. And they want to get comfort and security from that narrative. So, and that's what it is. And politicians in Canada, they know this. It's like you tell the story of running for the PPC, like you were trying to be honest and tell people like what's going on. And you said like the other person would come in, the Liberal candidate, and they would just say, we're going to give you all kinds of money. Like we're going to invest money into this project and that project, and everyone would clap. It's like no one wants to hear the real news. It's like we're not doing good, guys. We have to reassess this whole corrupt situation.
No, the politics is like if you're in the Middle East and somebody steals your wallet and the cop shows up and they manage to find your wallet and they give you like 75% of your money back. Well, that cop is working with the pickpocket, right? So like they're stealing your money, but you don't realize it because the taxation system is indirect. So the politician, the candidate's like, we will put $250 billion towards your mortgage in the event that this horrific ruling by the federal government takes your land away from you. I'm like, yeah, but you took my land away from me, and now you're using my money, and my grandchildren will have to pay interest on that money to pay what I owned previously.
And this is what I think. I will assert that I don't believe that Mark Carney and the Liberal Party wants to give Canada to First Nations. I think that there's something here we're not grasping yet. And it has to be in that problem, reaction, solution. This is going to cause a mad reaction. It's a problem. They're expropriating private property of taxpaying Canadians. That's a big problem. There's going to be a reaction. It's not going to be good. And then the government's going to have to provide a solution. This is just how we see change being implemented.
Well, let's play this out here since we got another 45 minutes and we're running out of topics. Do you remember a couple of weeks back, they were talking about extending visas to people with military experience?
Mm-hmm.
And now they're taking Canadians' lands away from them?
Yeah, there's also firearms confiscation schemes. They're looking to confiscate the firearms of tax-paying, law-abiding citizens. They're looking to enact like sweeping Orwellian-level censorship. They're bringing in foreign mercenaries. That's what a mercenary is. You have military experience. You come into Canada, we'll set you up. When are Native Canadians, like native-born Canadians, going to realize like we have a problem? Where this is all classic symptoms of a government going tyrannical. Anytime in history, and you could vet me on this, you can go check this out. Anytime a government has disarmed their population, it immediately resulted in something that population would have probably shot them for. It's not a good sign. It's never been a good sign.
People think of guns as like a protected class of property. Something that's horrific. No one should have, like, I don't know, anthrax or nuclear weapons. But you're giving up your agency. You're giving up a portion of your control. And if you do that, it's think of a woman, like a young girl. If a young girl doesn't respect herself, young men are not going to respect her either. You know, like she has to push back. She has to somehow show that some things are not allowed. And it's usually what we call groping. It's the same thing with weapons. Like, if you don't push back, if you let them take your weapons, they'll start taking more and more. And I wouldn't be surprised if they start coming after. I think they're going to come after farm equipment, because what's happening in Europe, a lot of the farmers go with these heavy, like 10-ton trucks. From there, you could go after things like chainsaws. I mean, technically a flamethrower. You can buy a flamethrower for farm. Like they'll just keep escalating and escalating.
Yeah, it's relative to the conditioning and the propaganda that we were fed. We were fed a steady stream of just super, like, very biased information on firearms and what it means in a free society. Like, for instance, when firearms became accessible to the population, when you started to see cheaper models being made, some of the early names for these, this is during, like, the Wild West, so to speak, during that era when, like, this was important. Like, these models were called the peacemakers, the equalizer. Why? Because it was equalizing prior to the advent and the proliferation of small arms in the West and in the settlements. These people were there would be a band of guys that would come up. They would take your whole harvest. They would steal your pig. This was common. They would rape your daughter. You know what I mean? And then they'd move on to the next farm or the next homestead. But this changed everything. This was an equalizer. This, like, any technology could be used for good or evil. What's the answer for bad guys with guns? Good guys with guns. It's such a one-dimensional understanding of things. And unfortunately, that's the level of can't even say it's intelligence or aptitude. That's the level of conditioning. These people have been conditioned from birth to accept these fallacious premises.
You can't have this conversation with a liberal, or insert whatever label you want for the other side, because like to me, it's not the gun. Like, if somebody comes at me with a gun and I have a gun, it's terrifying. One of us is going to live and die. Okay, you get rid of guns. Like, the guy's going to come at me with a knife. Like, you're going to get into a knife fight. That's arguably more terrifying. So, but they won't. They don't listen to that. Like, these people that are against guns, they have tunnel vision. Like, they just see this gun. It's like this hot red flashing, evil thing, and you have to get rid of that. Nothing else matters. Once we get rid of that, then we'll worry about guns, and after that, baseball bats.
Yeah, guns are bad, right? The government is going to provide this situation where they keep everyone safe. And that's crazy. It's like you hear the term a monopoly on violence. And that's what happens in a state where you're disarming your citizenry. In America, the whole premise was not just should people have the right to bear arms, they should have the right to form militias and to train and to have plans. You know what I mean? Like, and it was always, the duty of Americans to ensure that their Republican style government wasn't overtaken, which it seemingly is. So, I mean, that's besides the point, I guess.
Former Supreme Court Justice Antonin Scalia, he was talking about guns, and he gave a really interesting perspective. He said that when the founding fathers were forming the Constitution, they went back and they looked at history, the European princes, and the first thing that the European princes did before they enslaved and overpowered the people was take away their guns. And he said that's why it's in there, because guns aren't really that important. Like, you're a father, I'm assuming your kids are far more important than a gun. But it's strange that they put guns in there, but they didn't put, children or parental rights in there. And that's because of the way that they observed how Europe descended.
Yeah. And honestly, as a father in not a great neighborhood, it's kind of like and I know firearms aren't allowed to be utilized in this capacity in a self-preservation sense in Canada, but man, like, there's a solid argument that you're being irresponsible. A gun is one of those things that you hope you never need. But if you ever require it, you're grateful that you have one. You know what I mean? It's just a contingency. Like, there's bad people out there. I can't call the police and expect them to get here before someone murders my family. And when you actually have people to protect, it's not just you. Then you have those concerns. You think of that frequently, especially as a man and you're getting older. You know what I mean? Like, what if someone comes in my house right now? I've got a vicious dog. He's a sweet boy to the family, but I mean, he's a guardian. But it's again, man, it's all in the framing, and anything could be used for good or bad. And we forget that because in modernity, in secular modernity, we don't believe in good and bad. We don't even believe in truth. Everything's malleable, everything's interpretive.
Yeah, but now you and I we're going down that like people like you and me, we deal with higher level issues. We're trying our best not to be ideological. We're educating ourselves. I think the majority of the people they either they're just in a hurry to go to Netflix. Maybe they don't care. They just want a quick fix. I don't see this going very well for Canada.
Well, the best people are still subject of their egos. I find in these spaces, a lot of people are just trying to validate this inflated impression of themselves, and they attach their ego to their arguments, and then they lose perspective immediately. Once you kind of get down hard on one side of these dialectics, then you lose perspective, and you start to be biased, and you start to just almost function to perpetuate the confusion as opposed to looking pragmatically on how to resolve anything.
Yeah, no, I was laughing because you earlier you were saying some people identify on the right as libertarian or conservative or ethno-nationalist. I don't identify as any of that. I go to the bank and I have to fill out 50 documents, and I identify as not that. I just want a world where I don't have to do that.
Yeah, it's definitely a shame, but it's like I say, man, you have to be very vigilant and realize like how convoluted everything is right now, and stay perpetually humble. And when you're learning things, when you're digging into this stuff, and when you start to find out things, don't all of a sudden think you got it figured out. Don't look at yourself and, oh, I'm so smart, I figured it all out. And then start, pushing that narrative. Like, ask yourself honestly, what else am I not seeing? Okay, I just figured out this aspect of things. Like, what else am I not seeing now? And if you're constantly like that, you will remain wise at the least. And you got to be open to the possibility of being wrong. My big thing, man, I'm going to tell the truth. I'm going to call things as I see them. I don't care. That's just, I made that kind of pledge to myself. And I don't care what sycophant gets in my way. Oh, you're panicking. Trust the plan, bro. I don't trust anyone right now. And if you do, you're naive. And I'm happy to be wrong. But I mean, even if I am wrong, these people that blindly are supporting this war, they're still wrong in doing so. Even if it works out great, they're still wrong. Like you have to be constantly scrutinizing your leader. Don't worship your leader. That's fucking stupid.
Yeah, I don't even want to get into the Iran war again. Do you want to go to the comments? We got half an hour.
Yeah, definitely. How many people do we have presently?
504.
I will take a moment right now to appeal to everyone. We're immensely deboosted. We used to get 3,000 live viewers, 2,000 live viewers, 10,000 views per episode. They just fucking kill us now. So excuse my vulgarity and please share this if you can. It's very advantageous for us.
We're offended. You're offended. I'm glad you're watching, buddy. Carly Simon. Yes, that CBC interview reeks of desperation. He's talking about the Heritage Committee thing today. But I don't know if he means it reeks of desperation on the part of the Conservative Party.
I'm going to have to check that out. I was totally unaware of that. With everything else occurring, it's like impossible to be up on everything.
You don't want to watch it. It was terrible. There we go. Most Canadians refuse to come. This is from Cal. Most Canadians refuse to come together in Canada because they are so polarized they can't say someone else is right. Yes, and this really took off after Donald Trump, but especially COVID. Like after COVID, I lost all my friends.
On the same theme of that question, they can't admit when they're wrong. And that goes back to my previous comment about people associating, like attaching their ego to this. There's never been a more convoluted era to ascertain reliable information. And everyone has this certitude that I just can't comprehend. Like, how fucking arrogant are you to have this certitude in this moment? And that's what it is. And if we were more humble, we would definitely be able to be more we would be more likely to actually speak together in some way of resolving things as opposed to just fighting with one another.
Carly Simon says, "Did you know the Cowichan is not the first land claim won by First Nations? See Delgam et al. Versus British Columbia, 97, 3SCR, whatever. I worked on that file." No, thank you, Carly. I guess I'll look into that. I didn't know that. I would have preferred if you gave me good news, but that's more bad news. Thank you.
Carly Simon, that's like, you are so vain. I bet you think this podcast is about you, don't you? Do you know the song though? That's that I don't know if she's paying homage to that or if she just coincidentally has the same name as the famous singer. I was unaware of that. It doesn't surprise me. I mean, we've been this was a problem that was going to eventually come to a head, especially considering these land acknowledgements. Like, man, we've been spending the last 10 years going out of our way to say that this isn't Canada. This is actually the unceded territory of whatever First Nation side tribe resided here. It's nuts. Of course, there was going to be a effect to doing that and to having that.
You know, words have meaning. It's the same thing as when you say we are colonizers, all white people are racist. And I think even myself, we kind of had this impression that, oh, these are just useless kids. You know, they're foolish. It won't go anywhere. But it does. It has an impact.
Yeah, 100%. It's almost like magic, man. Like all of a sudden there's these new terms you never heard before and they have a very specific meaning, and then everyone starts to believe in these words, and like really it's like it's crazy how effective this is.
Do you remember during Trudeau when things were getting really out of control, that the LGBTQ community, they're like, we're here, we're queer, we're coming after your children?
Yeah, man.
Remember that?
That was phenomenal to me. Just when I first started to hear LGBTQ community. So let's just talk about that for 1 minute. People don't critically analyze anything. And this is like when I first started to hear that just doesn't make sense. What does a lesbian, a gay, a bisexual, a transsexual, whatever the other letters stand for, what do they have in common? Like, a community usually indicates that there's some shared values, or there's a shared lineage, there's a shared something. What they're doing is they're reducing people to their sexual proclivities or sexual preferences, and then they're putting them all in this group together, and they're saying this is a marginalized group, and then they're using that to pass laws and to pass legislative ideological things. And it's crazy, man. Like, why don't people realize, like, that's bullshit? There's no such thing as that community. It doesn't exist. I'm sorry.
Strange stuff. Tosca Houston, hello, sir. Unacceptable says ignorance is bliss. Yeah, I'd agree with that, JP.
Yeah, it makes you wonder sometimes, like, should I just, shut her down? Like, what am I doing here? Like, it's like, once you know, you can't not know. There is no blue pill that you could take and forget this stuff. But it's like, if I try really hard, maybe I could, kind of ignore it all and go back to a mundane version of life.
JT's got a good comment. They should call it the piss on George Orwell bill. I think that's a reference to Bill C9.
Yeah, Orwell saw this coming for sure. And so did Aldous Huxley with Brave New World. Like, the social engineers are going to run society. Once you started to see mass media, it was kind of easily to come to that logical conclusion, just looking at the way things were going and how this is utilized to herd and control people with these narratives that are perpetuated by, initially back then, it was just the media. It was like newspapers and stuff. That was what was pushing these narratives. Then we got, television, so they could, ideologically subvert people with their sitcoms and their television shows and their movies and the weekly news. But now, and I'll end it here. Now we have this model of social media, which I truly believe is a sophisticated algorithmic propaganda tool, where they could put emphasis on or de-emphasize any narrative they choose, where they can cause and foment division. And I mean, we're all on here just kept in these different echo chambers. It just seems like another tool of our control.
I just can't believe how far Canada slipped since Trudeau got in 2015, simply because of the way they took over the media.
Yeah, well, that's a powerful apparatus, man. That's a powerful tool to have. And then to block media too, and to suppress everyone who's trying to voice a true oppositional stance.
Alice not woke. Same with surveillance. People saying they don't care if they're surveilled because they have nothing to hide. I remember this right after 9/11, and it was a very compelling argument because at the time everybody understood what privacy. Well, we had privacy, and we didn't understand what it meant to live in a world with absolutely no privacy. Like right now, if you go through a border crossing, they can tear your life apart. They asked me when I was crossing back into Canada how much money I have in my bank account. And if you don't answer, they're like, fine, we'll just hold you until your lawyer shows up in 7 hours. These people they're evil.
Yeah, you have those petty tyrants in these type of systems that they end up having a bit of power, like a border agent. You know what I mean? And some of these guys, they truly get off on tyrannizing people. It's a shame, but you see them everywhere. Yeah, there's a lot of people that have this conception. And again, I believe it goes back to this conditioning. Like, no, under no circumstance should you accept that. It's like privacy is sacred. Like this is a big deal. And it's like, oh, well, you just keep me safe. I'll let you have every one of my rights. That's the big game, right? I'm going to give my rights to the government and they're going to keep me safe. We overvalue safety. What is it? How safe are you really? Like, come on.
I'm just going to take a moment to mention that we got five viewers on Substack. We're trying to get people to move away from YouTube and X, where we're being suppressed to Substack. And I want to say hello to Jen Gasek, Heather Hamel, and Amy Clark for joining us on Substack. Thank you very much. Unacceptable. Feelings are part of the entirety of humanity. Yes. Cal, does that mean whoever sues for hate speech first wins? No, I think whoever sues on the side of the government in power, in this case it's the left, they're the ones that win.
Yeah, you won't see this this used by white people that are being defamed consistently by the news media. You won't see this used for some of the hate crimes against Christians and Catholics in Canada. That's accepted. That's why, again, it's kind of weaponizing the legal system to enforce an orthodoxy. That's what we're seeing with these human rights tribunals too. It's just next level tyranny.
We got a comment from Carly. It's hard to believe trans men are sincere when they keep, I think that means sexually assaulting women and kids in bathrooms. I mean, for me, going into a women's like intimate space is just, it's off limits. Like, you're not supposed to do that. I don't support this at all. I don't support men in women's bathrooms, change rooms, or prisons.
So one aspect of this, I read extensively on this. I wrote a few articles regarding this topic. There's the gender dysphoric individuals that truly have a gender identity issue, but a large proportion of people that identify as trans, especially males identifying as females, they're what's known in the literature as autogynephiliacs. And these autogynephiliacs, they have this sexual arousement from presenting and being accepted as a woman. As a woman, so they want to insert themselves in these female only spaces, and like this is very well known, to the point where like there's pornography fetish sites that are of these males going into women's spaces and masturbating and stuff. Like, this is super common. And again, it's a topic I don't necessarily want to talk about it, but I had to learn about it. And it's a big problem, 100%. But again, you can't insinuate or even infer that all trans people or whatever this, like, I don't even believe it exists, but you can't say that. There is people that are definitely, rapists and sick people that are of this class or have this designation presently, and they're utilizing it to their advantage by getting in these spaces.
What else we got? What is Carly Simon saying? In my opinion, the left wants to legalize everything hedonistic, no matter how immoral. I was in the early 2000s, I was riding a taxi cab and I was talking to the cab driver, and we're saying, listen, these homeless people, these drug addicts, they're going to do drugs anyway. Doesn't it make more sense if they could get it from the government, where you have safe drugs, as opposed to a dealer that might spike the drugs? And it's a very compelling argument. Again, when you grow up in a world where everything works, you don't know what it's like when it doesn't work. Now we've decriminalized drugs, and it's getting into the schools. We have taken away the stigma of gender identity disorder, and we're calling it transgenderism, and it's being promoted in the schools.
Yeah, it was a compelling argument until we seen it implemented and we seen the detriment it had immediately. Um, and we got to see that in Portland and in British Columbia, in your province. It's been a net detriment for sure. It's been disastrous, really. But no, it's like at this point, you got to kind of realize, like, even if you were for this kind of thing, like, okay, well, it didn't work. let's go back on that.
Yeah, course correction. Unacceptable. We are in interesting times, that's for sure. Alice Not Woke. You guys should listen to David Bayer. He just talked about contraction always results in expansion, exodus, and creation. I don't know who he is or what that is. Do you?
No, I'm not sure in what context.
Well, thanks for the reference. Maybe we'll look him up. JT, heel turn, face turn, WWF employs a game Trump previously played. Do you follow that?
I think he's indicating that, it's kayfabe. Trump was actually in the WWF as playing characters back in the day, and evidently now he's playing a character right now.
Here's a good one from JT. Israel is the same as the deep state, which is the same as the United Nations, NATO, WHO, Malthusian, technocratic tyrants. I'd say UN, NATO, WHO, they're a little bit lower, but yeah, Israel, deep state, City of London, Christian Zionism, like all of these things, it's almost interchangeable. It's these psychos that are running us.
Yeah, it was hard to tell. Now I think maybe JT is right. Prior to this, I didn't know where Israel fit in. Honestly, I thought maybe Israel was in opposition to the UN and NATO in some capacity. Like, clearly there was a fragmentation of this ruling class, and there were different sides vying for influence, and seemingly Israel came out on top because, like I said, this whole regime change in Iran, this does not benefit America in any way, shape, or form. And anyone that's trying to make that argument just seems it reeks of desperation at this point.
Gary says, WWF, that's what I thought when Donald and Obama had words at that press gala. This is pre-2016.
Yeah, honestly. And there's a lot of people that believe that. I have a lot of friends that I truly value their perspective, and they're very intelligent, highly intelligent people. And they told me the whole time, like, you're fucking nuts, dude. Trump's in on it. Trump's always been in on it. And I'm like, I don't know. Like, again, I go back to that certitude thing, but I knew this in July, and I convinced myself otherwise. And I was listening to the analysis of people that were seemingly endeavoring to convince me otherwise, and I let myself believe it, even though deep down I kind of think I knew better. But now I'm not lying to myself anymore.
Here, Carly Simon says, why did he appoint a new Secretary of War?
Hegseth is still Secretary of War. He was right on the first.
I don't know what
he's a super Christian Zionist.
Yeah, I didn't realize that until recently.
Well,
one thing I wanted to bring up earlier, where the Trump administration really went downhill, was when Matt Gaetz was denied the right to be the AG. Like, I think if he was there, things might have been different. And I think that's why the deep state got rid of him.
100%, man. And again, I think he was forced to take certain people. If you knew that there was a problem with Israel having too much influence as Trump, would you appoint a Christian Zionist in a position of power in your administration? That would be unlikely. So, I mean, maybe he was told he has to take Hegseth. The Christian Zionists, some of the clips that have been coming out of these various pastors, like, I've never heard anything like it. And I'm Christian, I'm Catholic, and it blows my mind how theologically illiterate they are. Like, this is an ideology. It's predicated on dispensationalism and the Scofield Bible. I'm not going to get into it all, but I definitely would like to Inspire people to look it up. Do some digging on the Scofield Bible and dispensationalism and evangelicals. You'll be blown away at how crazy this shit is.
I'll take your word for it. JT, Carney would love all of Canada to be an easily controlled reserve Indigenous industrial country. I'll throw that over to you.
Yeah, maybe that's it too, right? Like, it's just, if ownership, if you're above, if you're the government and you're the banking class, do you really care who owns anything? Like, what's the, no, not really. You just care if you're still in control. So maybe that's what it's going to be. We're all going to live on the unceded hunting territories of whatever First Nations tribe we're associated with.
Carly Simon, I agree, JP. The goal is to create 100% hopelessness to bring in the New World Order.
Could even be worse than that, man. What if they're going to cull us? Like, what if they're going to cull humanity with their neo-Malthusian framing and premise? They want, like, to take us down to 1 billion people. And what if they're going to do this by the wars? You know that all these rich people and these elites people have elaborate shelters and bomb shelters, like crazy ones, man. So, like, maybe that's part of their agenda.
I heard somebody was talking about, like, he said he was talking to one of these billionaires, and the billionaire's like, well, I have a yacht and I have a fallout shelter and I have security. And this guy was a military guy. He's like, you do realize, like, once the nukes start flying, the money that you have, it's worthless. These mercenaries, they're not interested in gold. They're interested in food, ammunition, women, power.
Ammunition will be a currency if things get dystopian. Don't worry so much about food, worry about ammunition, and then you will never run out of food.
Good advice. Gary, the foreign violence is a feature. Begging for more safety is the end game. I think that's when I said they're bringing in mercenaries.
And that's, again, kind of relative to that anarcho-tyranny thing, right? Like, you're seeing, like, so much crime, and the government is not doing anything to actually resolve it and make our neighborhood safe. In fact, they're telling us to put our car keys by the door and to cooperate with home invaders. Just, do what they want. It's like, that's pretty wild, right? So it's going to get to a point where it's so chaotic that people aren't going to care as long as someone says they can establish order again.
JP, think of the burglars. I mean, you have these, like, minority burglars. It's so hard for them to get ahead in life. You're a white man. The least you could do is put your car keys by the front door.
I got to stop projecting my white privilege. I'm working on that.
Exactly. Let's see. Tosca, he says that when I made fun of him for saying yes equals destabilize and go rolls out in this agenda, then the next part of the master plan. It could be. I mean, the taking our land away to destabilize, but it seems like they're just. I can't tell if there's a plan, like a master plan, or they're just like, hey, Mark, let's see how much we can mess with these people.
So here's an interesting little caveat, and you and I were speaking of this recently in a private conversation. So what we've seen around 2008 is the right and the left coming together on some big issues. You've seen the Occupy Wall Street movement coincide with the Tea Party movement and the Republican Party. And we all started to realize, like, oh, it's these big bankers. You started to hear the whole 1% narratives, the Zeitgeist, Peter Joseph movies. We're talking about the monetary system. Like, there was a real moment there. And then all of a sudden Barry gets in, Obama, and everyone kind of is kind of placated by that a little bit. And then you start to see these psyops, man, the transgender stuff, all of the racial division, the critical theories pumped up. And it's all seemingly sponsored by, like, Pfizer and all of these big corporate interests to push these psyops. And what did they accomplish? Well, what they did is they got the right and the left to focus on each other in this fucking stupid culture war with this right-left slave dialectic. And we're looking at each other and we're still arguing about this inconsequential bullshit. Now, inconsequential comparatively, I'm not saying it doesn't matter, but it's inconsequential comparative to the integrity of our institutions or the fact that we're all slaves under this monetary system. Like, these are some things we should find some solidarity regarding, but seemingly it's very efficacious.
Yeah, I took that away from the libertarian guy that I was talking to. He's the one that brought it to my attention that this transgenderism thing blew up like right after Occupy Wall Street.
Yeah, I've been talking about it a lot. I heard Dave Smith was the one that kind of gets the credit for it. He said it on like Joe Rogan a few years ago, and he's right, man. Maybe it's a coincidence, but I don't really believe in coincidence these days.
Here's another one from Unacceptable. Carney wants to give the natives the land because after that, the globalists have a plan for the land, mining coal. Could be mining resources.
Yeah, it's very possible, man. It's like I say, all I know for sure is that they're not doing this out of like altruism. They're not like, oh, we want to right this wrong of the past and give this land back. That's just not how these people operate.
So Carly Simon is pointing out my ignorance. BC did that in 97 when they gave the title to First Nations of UBC endowment lands. Homeowners were left in the muck. I did not know that. So
I was unaware too.
This the two of us we seemingly we feel so important because we woke up in 2020. Carly here has been awake since 1997.
Man, when I encounter some of the analysts that were looking at this stuff for decades, like Matt Errett, who's joining us Thursday to have a discussion, like I'm blown away. Like this information was around for a very long time, and it wasn't necessary for the bulk of us to look at it. It was kind of COVID that woke a lot of people up.
Mm-hmm. Unacceptable. The natives were easily taken advantage of 100 years ago. That will happen again. Maybe it's happening right now. Tosca JT, all politicians should have an 8-year expiry date at the very least to quell inevitable corruption. I think Bruce Party said this as well. I'll share my thoughts. I don't think it is better, but it's not enough. Like if you as a people are not educated and you're not engaged in the political process, it doesn't matter how good your laws are. Eventually, these politicians will find a way.
Yeah, 100%. I think definitely term limits are advantageous to the people, but I also think an era of hyper transparency, where if you want to get in the realm of public service, you have to understand that we're going to scrutinize you. All of your banking records, your history, your finances, your projected finances, like I want to know all of that. And if you're not willing to do that, then I don't want you. Like we have to ensure that these people have integrity and they're there to actually serve the public.
Remember that interview I did with Crypto Spartacus? And he said, there's no rule that says that the politicians have to invade our privacy, whereas we can't invade theirs. Like it should be the other way around. Like this invasive surveillance, it should be us using it against them.
Yeah, 100%. He made a great point. And Jonathan Bahai has actually said the same thing that I initially heard from crypto. And that was we have to embrace digital IDs and we have to own them. We have to ensure that it's owned and protected by the people and it's done with blockchain technology. And then this is ours. It's not the government that creates it, it's the individuals. And we do this to ensure that we can protect our data and we can protect our identity and we're not exploited by it. And he used this analogy, Crypto Spartacus, and it was brilliant because we were kind of talking about this earlier. It's like when the gun was first invented, it, in some instances it was used by the government to kind of subjugate the people. But in America, it was used the opposite way, right? Like these things can be used as a tool of liberation or a tool of subjugation. It's who kind of gets to it first, essentially.
Here's a comment from Tosca. You should probably comment on this. Machiavelli in his discourses and in The Prince lays it for us regarding the outcomes of bad governance.
Yeah, Machiavelli, it was so relevant that it's actually in psychology, it's a term, it's a personality dimension, Machiavellianism. But yeah, I don't have any particular insight in that. I agree with it. It's I think everyone should be aware of that.
Have you actually read The Prince? I haven't.
I haven't read it, but I'm aware of the plot enough. I've heard it referenced so much, and I've read people referencing it that I have a bit of an idea of how it was.
I know when to use the word to impress women, but
Those words just make women think you're a nerd, bro.
That explains why I never actually get their numbers. JT, it should be a big problem, you mean JP, but I see no pitchforks yet. Yeah, I think he's talking about the land grab thing. I've been using that phrase pitchforks. Like I just don't know what it's going to take.
Well, I think honestly the censorship should be as concerning. I mean, the land thing is, and I hate to say it, but presently, even though it's setting a legal precedence, presently it's only affecting people in BC. But this Bill C9, like this is next level tyranny. This is Orwellian. This is an ambiguous legislation that is inevitably going to be weaponized against dissent. Like this is what Nepal went off about. Nepal, who I think are probably a fairly submissive population. I'm not super well versed on the Nepalese people, but I assume they're fairly, there's order there, and they like went into a riot when the government tried to censor them. But I don't have the faith that Canadians will do that. Why? Because we're balkanized and we're kept in this right-left struggle. The left are defending this right now. Like that's crazy. And that's what I mean. It prevents us. This slave dialectic prevents us from seeing what's hurting us because we're just protecting our guys. We're so tribalistic that we kind of forego our other critical faculties.
That on the right, it's almost impossible to unite them because you want to tell them Bill C9 is bad, and anybody that's Jewish, they're like, oh, anti-Semitism evil. Anybody that's Christian, oh, we hate Muslims. And I'm like, guys, this is about Canada. I don't care what's happening in the Middle East. Can we focus? But everybody is hyper emotional.
Well, it's pretty scary that in America, you're seeing speech laws relative to anti-Semitism. They're trying to legislate things relative to that. Oh, well, that's hate speech. And again, listen, man, you guys might not like this, but if I pay my taxes and I follow the law, I'm allowed to hate whoever I want to hate. I personally don't hate anyone. I'm very Catholic, and I certainly don't hate people based upon immutable characteristics or group identity. That's not me. That goes very much against my religion and my character. But if I did, I should be able to. I'm not breaking the law, and that's what they're doing. They're legislating emotion, and they're legislating like thought crimes. It's fucking nuts.
Just to be clear for the audience, when you say you're following the law, it doesn't mean that if you break the law, some random law like driving drunk, then you're not allowed to hate people. You mean as long as you're not hating people while breaking the law.
Evidently, as long as you're not hating people that have power.
Yeah, that's Canada for you. What is Alice saying? But they're moving far too quickly with their agenda. If at least 30% of the world chose not to get vaccinated, that means 30% are aware of what's going on, possibly more and more waking up now. I think so. You?
Yeah, I say this frequently, man, and maybe I'm lying to myself now, but like whatever's happening in Canada, we are slowly waking people up. It's becoming quite the arduous process, and it's far more prolonged than I initially thought it would be. But inevitably, every day, there's more people that are waking up to the synthetic nature of everything. And I pray when this C9 goes through, because I think just like Carney, with the help of the Bloc Québécois, was successfully able to shut down debate on this in Parliament, I think they'll also be able to pass this fairly easy. And I hope Canadians have the right reaction, which is just absolute opposition to this. I think we should have another convoy or something along those lines. We should get organized and push back against this. It's tyranny.
Fingers crossed. This is why Canadians aren't taught American history, so they don't realize they're supposed to be keeping the government in check. I'd agree with you maybe 20 years ago, but I'm pretty sure in the US they don't teach American history either.
Yeah, the capturing of our school curriculums, like that's one of the biggest front lines for this information war. They're just ideologically subverting our children. They're teaching this critical theory based victimization culture. They're teaching the neo-Malthusian climate hysteria. They're teaching the transgender stuff. Like, this is nuts, man. That's what they're teaching our children. They're using our tax dollars to pay for it. So that's where we are.
Carly Simons, how can Canadians believe any legislation is credible when the Land Titles Act can be tossed out like yesterday's lunch? You saw my post about the Musqueam ruling, the Cowichan ruling. Sorry, I don't know if you saw it, but in the Cowichan court, the judge said uh, you can't reference the Land Titles Act. Like even if you have a title deed, you can't reference it. So you can't come into the court again and say, "Well, I should at least have 50% ownership of the land." Like what? She's got a point, or he's got a point. What's the point of having these laws if they can just be put aside?
And it's that's why we have a judiciary that's impartial, and they look to enforce the law in an impartial regard, as opposed to presently, especially in British Columbia, you have a class of radical activists. They're radical progressive activists, and they've been put in this judiciary stacked with them, and they're not interpreting the law. They're enforcing an orthodoxy. They're enforcing an ideology, and that's just I don't see it any other way.
Yeah, it's lawlessness. Tosca Houston, please, people need to read the history of guns. I'm pretty naive on that too, JP.
Yeah, people need to read history in general. I mean, my God, and from good sources too, like because there's a lot of disinformation going on there too.
I think he was referring to your previous comment. Guns are a tool for self-protection and for sport, and yes, the peacemaker.
Yeah, 100%, man. That was the whole premise of firearms initially. That was how they were looked upon in Western culture, especially in America. It was the equalizer, the peacemaker. This is making people not be a victim. Now those homesteaders actually had defense if there was a gang of guys that just drove up on them.
Tosca Houston, excellent podcast. Thank you. Thank you very much for tuning in. JT, it's the crushing of the flawed worldview that inhibits the liberals from thinking critically about guns. If they need a gun, they don't need daddy government, and they have daddy issues and want daddy government. I'll throw it over to you.
Well, yeah, that's a common criticism, and I think it's relevant because we were again conditioned to have these views. Like, and people they never even heard the alternative. They never heard of the stats of people that were saved by guns. It's just been vilified in this just ridiculous way to where it's like you said, they won't even consider the arguments. Guns are bad. Guns are bad, bro. You know what I mean? It's that simplistic.
Guns kill people. Unacceptable. Canada will send our boys to fight the war with Iran. I don't know. I mean, I just don't see our boys having what's necessary to fight a war. What do you think?
No, I don't even think America will have ground troops. Maybe I'm being naive or optimistic, but I don't think Trump has the plans for that for sure. But we'll see. Who knows?
Alice, not woke. The media controls the narrative. Repetition seems to brainwash people very easily. Yeah, definitely.
Media controls both sides of the narrative. That's the trick. That's when you really start to wake up, you realize that. Like, your side is not right neither. That's synthetic. It's controlled opposition. We're being gamed.
Yeah, they're good at it too. JP, you were not alone. I don't know. Maybe that's a song. Carly says, yes, I know that song. By the way, I am a female. Sorry, Carly. Female, but she knows your song. If you want to sing the rest of the song, go ahead.
She definitely does. There's no way she never heard that her whole life.
Mr. Malosh, thank you for reposting the stream. Unacceptable. We studied those books in schools, Fahrenheit 451, To Kill a Mockingbird, The Pied Piper. I haven't read The Pied Piper. I've read the other two. It's a shame that they're not really teaching this stuff in school anymore.
Well, 1984 used to be in the high school curriculum. That's a great inclusion. Like, and again, they don't want to educate people to have critical analytical skills. They want to just have people that can regurgitate information.
No. Hey, Clown World's here. Darn, I don't know what time you guys go on anymore. I just got sorry, Clown World. So on Tuesdays we moved it later to 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern. On Thursdays when we have guests, we try to do the same time, 4 p.m. Pacific. But if the guests can't make it, we vary it on Thursdays. And thank you for sharing the stream. What is this? Unacceptable. I met 4 men in the girls' can. None of them were trans. I freaked out on all of them. That's got to be scary as a woman.
Definitely. I don't know what to say to
that. She goes, I kicked in the stall door when a guy was in there. He was sitting. Okay, that's just too much information. All right, Tim. Jerusalem is the new headquarters, but don't tell anyone I told you that. Oh, okay, fine. I won't tell them that, anyone that. But what do you think?
Yeah, man, I can honestly say I don't know. I'm not liking what I'm seeing. And I really wanted to try to again, I was lying to myself since July when Trump initially attacked Iran. I believe that in some way, seemingly, Bibi Netanyahu is exercising control over President Trump. I'm happy to be wrong about that. I'll be very, very pleased to be wrong about that, but I don't know how anyone can't see that presently.
It's another comment from Clown World. Being a Zionist, he can't be a Christian. I've heard this phrase before, Christian Zionists. It's seemingly bizarre, but they're Christians and they support Zionists.
It goes against Christianity. In Christianity, the new covenant is Jesus Christ, and it makes the old covenant useless. In Christianity, as a Catholic, I believe the Catholic Church is Israel. So do all Catholics. That's part of our doctrine.
Here's one I'm going to throw over to you, Tim. Geneva Bible, that's what the Pilgrims brought over.
I'm not super familiar with that. The Christian Zionism is relative to the Schofield Bible, though.
Yeah, I've never heard the Geneva Bible.
Nor have I.
Do you know where I hope I don't make a mistake with this one. Do you know where the word Bible comes from?
No.
It's a town in Lebanon, well, present-day Lebanon, Byblos or something. That's what I heard.
Interesting.
Before it gets better, our future is idiocracy.
Our present, too, seemingly.
Within Canada, anyway. Clown World. How are you doing for time, JP? You got another 10 minutes?
I'm good, brother. Yeah, absolutely.
Clown World. I know it sounds black-pilled. It's just that what I'm seeing at the moment. I also have to return to taking long walks. I guess she's a little bit demoralized with what's going on. I'm in the same boat.
Yeah, I watched that episode of you and Curtis Stone, and it was a great episode, but just some of the things he was saying, I realize now, I don't want to put as much effort into waking people up. I'm never going to. You know what I mean? It's seemingly the world is controlled by very powerful interests, and every time I'm here, I have 2 children, he said, and I'm on X arguing with some idiot. You know what I mean? It's it hit home for me. I was like, fuck. But at the end of the day, I think about this frequently because I put a lot of time into this and I get nothing back beyond the satisfaction of doing it. But for me, this is a cathartic process. If I couldn't come on here and live stream and kind of vent about some of the issues, I'd probably go mad. I would drink a lot more, that's for sure. Welcome to my world.
So Unacceptable says, trying to find you on Substack. We are at... actually, it's at Teddy Stoic Philosopher.substack.com. So that's where you can find us. There's also a band from Quebec who's trying to get tons of NCC land, national parks included, I believe. I don't know what NCC is.
Nor do I, but I know there's other First Nations bands that are trying to do this in various provinces.
You know, I watched an interview and this is the one that I clipped out and I put it on. I got 25,000 impressions. And no offense to the guest or the host. They're good people, just like you and me. But throughout this episode, they jumped over each other to justify the position of the First Nations. It said, we understand why they did it. The First Nations are not bad for taking the land. They just, they saw an opportunity and they took it. It's a free market thing. And I'm like, they stole people's land. Stop justifying it.
Yeah, there's no justification. It's like I said frequently. Now, I said this very facetiously. If this isn't Canada, I want my tax dollars back. If all of the rights that are enshrined as being a Canadian are not applicable, and my private property is not even that doesn't mean anything. I want my fucking tax dollars back, man. That's fine. I've got 25 years of taxation. That'll get me a nice spread. Maybe I could buy some land off the First Nations.
Could you imagine, like, close your eyes and picture a court that actually has competent judges, and they rule that you get to get your tax dollars back from the First Nations that just stole your land. They give you your land back.
It's just so utterly ludicrous, man. I often say, because number one, I can't afford a lawyer. I've met quite a few lawyers since doing this. Maybe one of them will pro bono me when I get in trouble inevitably, but I'm looking forward to representing myself. I really am. Like, I got to have someone film this because it's going to be good.
You get into an argument with the judge. Canadians are nice until we're not. I'm waiting for the until.
So there's a perpetual reciprocal dynamic that exists between the people and the ruling class. This is true everywhere. And even the most oppressed people will reach their breaking point. That's just the truth of it. So she's absolutely right on that. That's true to any people, even the most historically submissive.
We got a comment from Gary. Critical theory entered the Surrey schools in the mid-'70s. I had an openly gay female principal. Man, I've been trying to make inroads into the Christian community. I remember I talked to Tanya Gaw maybe 4 years ago, and I was trying to get them to mobilize. And I just saw hope through the Christians that they would move the country in a more traditional manner. But I see that they are just disorganized as the rest of us since the 70s.
It's a minority in Canada too, Christians. And then there's the differences between them, like Catholics and Protestants. I mean, there's some major doctrinal differences, and you see them arguing about this. I don't do that. I think like you're missing the point. If you're going to do that, like I try my best not to jump into those discussions, but yeah, I think for a minute when it was less complicated, when it was just the government imposing this trans ideology, I think all of the religious communities had a bit of solidarity. It's like, okay, well, we don't want the government indoctrinating our children that goes against our faith. And all Abrahamic religions are against this, and other religions too. But I mean, once everything started to get more complicated, you started to see that get beat to shit. Just like the populist movement has been devastated, so has any solidarity amongst religious groups.
Clown World says CAF, Canadian Armed Forces promos are happening on X. All of them show white men. That's really disturbing. When the government starts acknowledging that it needs white people, you know there's a war looming.
Yeah, honest to God, that's what concerns me the most about the diversification of our police forces and this foreigner mercenary class coming in now. We're importing military personnel, because what I tell myself right away, it's like a group of Canadian military people, they're not going to necessarily go into an area against civilians, against their fellow countrymen. Like, I think you'd have a lot of occurrences of people saying, no, we're not going to follow those orders. But when you import people, or when you diversify your police stations, you're going to have people that are just going to follow orders without compunction. And that's very, very pernicious.
Yeah, we've talked about that multiple times. Alice, I'll check my email. We have an email for this podcast. It's probably where you sent it. And what else from Alex? Apparently, the Liberal want to add another tax on top of regular property tax based on property value. Get ready. Did you hear about this?
No, it doesn't surprise me, though. It's like an unrealized gains type of a tax, I guess.
Yeah, I think they're calling it an equity tax, but it's an unrealized gains tax. Like they are squeezing whatever, and it doesn't make any sense to me. Like, they steal $1 trillion worth of land. And then they're like, well, we need, like, why don't they just start stealing all the land? Why do they need to tax us?
Yeah, it's so dysfunctional presently. And like these ideas, their whole premise, it's almost destined to not work. It's kind of like they've yet to abandon it. While the rest of the world is, like, especially with some of the climate change policies and stuff, the rest of the world is walking back from this, but Canada, we're just doubling down. Same with the transgender stuff. Even in the UK, they're pulling back a little bit. We're seeing legal precedents come where these these detransitioners are being awarded vast sums of money from the medical professionals that mutilated them. And yet Canada still, we're doubling down on all of these terrible ideas. It's just phenomenal to behold.
I really think that Mark Carney and his cabinet, they're just drunk all day long, and they're like, let's see how far we can get away with it. Or maybe there's a bunch of Arabs in the Middle East, they're betting on, what shenanigans Canada will get into next.
Yeah, what's Polymarket saying about that?
Yeah, exactly. Alice Not Woke, Tanya Gaza, a Christian Zionist, unfortunately. I didn't know that, but I just thought she was like a hardcore Christian.
Dude, there's Zionists in Canada that aren't even evangelicals. Like that's that Wyatt Claypool dude. He calls himself a Baptist Zionist. Not heard of that. That's new to me. He's just an opportunist, I think, personally.
Let's do a moratorium. No more mentioning of that gentleman's name on this show. I don't want to picture his ugly mug. David Fishman, We All Have to Learn, a great book about your ego, Eckhart Tolle and New Earth. Do you know that?
I don't know that.
And I guess we can end it with one of our most loyal viewers, Peggy, home equity tax. That's what they're introducing.
Yeah, it's disgusting. I've not heard of it. And again, it's like you and I were speaking recently, Peyman, and you were saying, oh, my memory's not good. And it's like, dude, it's not that your memory's not good. We're being overwhelmed with information. The news cycle is just, it's never ending. And there's so much to it all that it's hard to you're like a sponge for information. You can only kind of attain so much and hold on to it for so long. And then you got to squeeze some out to make room.
Yeah. I don't know. You're right. There's only so much you can absorb. But what I meant was I don't know what's going to happen to this country. I'm like Curtis Stone at this point. I'm not going to get into arguments. I got 2 kids. I'm not going to argue with some loser on X. I'm just trying to stay off X now.
Yeah, I do my posts, but I don't spend a lot of time arguing with people because number one, I don't think they're real. I don't think most real people get to see my content. I think they throw the bot armies at me, and I'm just arguing with regime apologist bots.
Yeah, well, it's a good thing that the Conservative Party is running out of money, so I'm not getting attacked as viciously by the bots anymore. I think that's all we got. There's a couple more comments. Clown World, ironically, my property value has been going down for the last 5 years. I have no clue why and get no answers. I've heard about this. The property value's in the toilet.
Where I'm curious, I don't expect you to answer, but I'm curious as to where you reside at because I thought property values were going up everywhere.
Clown World, can you put your physical address with postal code?
Your real name too?
Yeah, social insurance number. I 100% support the banning of said name on this podcast, Wyatt. But you can still go on about how much of a freakazoid he is.
Dude, that whole angle, man, I don't trust, and I'll say it now too. I don't care. Rebel News, I don't trust them. I don't trust anyone who works for them. They're pushing a very pro-Israel narrative, and that's it. That's their main core emphasis is to promote the state of Israel. We need an impartial Canadian independent news media, and we don't fucking have it.
Did you see, you were in that space the other day, Alice Not Woke, I'm not reading that. The JDS, this is the name of the space, Jew derangement syndrome. I think there's a contingent in the Conservative Party that's trying to leverage this anti-Semitism narrative to get voters. This is why I'm just like, well, man, this country is toast.
Yeah. It's again, man, they want it all in this right-left thing. The right should be pro-Israel and pro-neocon and totally anti-Islam. It's like I'm anti-weaponized mass migration. I'm a proponent for remigration. But I'm not getting in these dialectics. I'm not getting on either side of that and losing perspective and sounding like all those idiots in that space. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to remain humble and realize I don't see all the pieces of this, and I'm not going to take a firm stance.
As we're winding down the show, JT says Blyett Clyde. Carol says that thanks so much, guys. Excellence as always. Thank you for tuning in. We're trying our best to get the message out and change the level of discourse in the country, but it's not easy.
Well, it's certainly not easy when you're deboosted. So I'll take this moment again to appeal to everyone. If you guys can please share this. Many of you have commented that you're enjoying the episode. If there's anyone you know that you think might enjoy this type of content, please go out of your way and share it with them. Because like I said, we were averaging 2,000 live viewers. Our record was 3,000 live viewers. We were getting 10 to 12,000 views per episode. That's been taken down by like a factor of 10. It's phenomenal how deboosted we're being. And anyone who's endeavoring to provide an unbiased take in Canada right now is suffering the same consequences.
Clown World says, I really enjoy your podcast, guys. Thank you very much. Sundown 95, your podcast is the best one around. Thank you very much for the comment.
Yeah, we definitely we derive a bit of a cathartic process out of it. I do anyway, for sure. I'm very glad there's people that come and listen, because I derive a lot of value.
JT, great show. When's the Philosopher returning? I believe Kris is the teddy bear, and you are the Philosopher, and I'm the Stoic.
That would make sense where I have Philosopher in my thing, but I think originally I was the teddy bear. Someone, I think it was it Sue? One of our regular, they said, oh, I love this show. It's like the Philosopher, the Stoic, and the teddy bear. But then very, very early on, people started to think Kris was the teddy bear because he's a really nice guy. Like Kris is a super nice dude. And then again, I'm more philosophical. So, but I think technically I'm the teddy bear. I don't really think it matters, but.
But to answer your question, he's hopefully going to be back in the next few weeks. He's we can't disclose where he is. You can figure it out maybe, but he's otherwise indisposed.
Well, that's the big cliffhanger. You guys got to tune in every week because Kris is going to tell you where he has been.
to join us next week.
That's right.
All right. There's one thing I do want to bring up, and if this is true, this is very bad. But everything's bad, so who cares? Carly Simon, apparently Bill C9 did pass, 186 to 144. I thought it didn't pass. No surprise, I guess.
So right before we went online, I did some grokking and some AIing to try to vet this, and apparently it did not pass. I actually wrote down, if you want to give me one moment here. So presently it's at consideration in committee in the House of Commons. It's completed its first reading on September 19th, its second reading on October 1st, referred to the Standing Committee on Justice and Human Rights. And then what happened today, and this is what a lot of people conflated this with, is the Bloc Québécois and the Liberal Party voted to end the debate on it.
Right.
So there will be no more discussion on it until the vote is held. But that narrative did get out. I actually had a post I made because I seen a lot of big accounts saying that, and I didn't vet it, which bad on me. And I had this viral post, and then I seen all the comments, you fucking idiot, like that you couldn't have vetted that, so I just deleted it, obviously.
There's Carly, it's okay. We all make mistakes. Clown World says, Peyman, who am I? Well, Miss World, first name Clown. JD says, we are all the teddy bear.
We should change the name. We are the teddy bear.
We the teddy bears.
We the teddy bear. That's it, man. I love it.
Oh, Gilbert, you're all snow Mexicans.
We're snow heritage Americans. Heritage snow Mexicans.
Snow Mexicans. Gilbert, all the same. Thank you for tuning in. Clown World, Peyman and JP exploiting Kris's absence. Yeah, well,
Peyman and I can go far off in the weeds without Kris to kind of ground us and bring us back. Peyman and I will end up talking about some crazy shit.
Oh, okay. I see what you mean. Peyman, I was asking, who am I? Like I was having an existential crisis. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I am the Stoic, but what do we know? All right. That was a fun episode. I love the questions. Oh, wait, Peggy's questions get buried at the top. So what does she say? They have come down a bit since the COVID boom in my area. Anyways, not so many people from Ontario. Maybe she's in Alberta.
No, she's in Cape Breton.
Peggy, Rebel hasn't mentioned the Epstein connection to Carney since the release of Epstein emails. Yeah, that's.
So, I mean, what I said there, a lot of people are afraid to say that in Canada, but I think everyone understands that. I don't think that's even controversial, what I said, personally. I'm not going to push you on a Peyman, but I mean, that's how I feel.
Feel about what?
That Rebel News is very pro-Zionist. That's like that's their biggest priority. It's not to fight the culture war in Canada. It's to put a very pro-Israel message out. It's
Yeah, but my view is a little bit more bleak. Like these political parties, they don't care about anything. They just they look at the demographics and they say, how do we get voters? The Conservative Party is like, well, we can get the Jewish vote. The Liberal Party's like, we can get the Palestinian vote, and that's how they view us people.
Jewish Canadians vote to the left. Jewish Americans do too,
Really?
as a majority. Yes, yeah, definitely, always. As far as I know, I didn't vet that neither. So I mean, sure, someone.
Well, the Conservatives, they can always try to strip away a few votes. Peggy, looking forward to the Thursday episode. Yes. Do you want to make a plug for that?
Yeah. So what time is it Thursday, Peyman? Because it's a different time, isn't it?
It should be 11 a.m. Eastern, which is 8 a.m. Pacific.
Yeah, so it's an early one, but we actually have Matt Ehret coming on. I'm a huge fan of Matt's content and his books. I think he's one of the sharpest analysts that are looking at this thing. So I'm very much looking forward to this. It'll probably be a little different. It'll be Peyman and I and Matt, and Peyman and I will likely just be asking him questions. Matt has a lot to say on these issues, and I have some really good questions. So I would definitely like if people tuned in for that one.
Man, I hope I have the time right. But yeah. So if everybody could join us for the Matthew Ehret episode, that should be a good one. Yeah. Any final words, JP, before we sign off?
Just want to thank everyone for coming out. Even though we're deboosted, we're not saying that in some kind of cynical way. I'm very happy that anyone derives any value from this, and you guys come out and share it and interact with us. It's a real trip, and we're immensely appreciative for it. So, with that said, thank you very much, and we will see you guys on Thursday. Thanks for coming out.